Thanks for joining us. After about 3 months, the Nigerian Correctional Service has released more photos of the inmates who escaped from the Medium Security Custodial Centre in Suleja, Niger State. About 119 inmates fled from the correctional centre in April when rainfall destroyed walls of the correctional centre. 18 of the inmates were captured in June, and identities of 31 others were disclosed by the service last night. The Minister of Interior, Olubunmi Tunji-Ojo, in his visit after the incident, hinted that the federal government is considering relocating their facility. And staying with security concerns, the armed forces says it is engaging in multiple fronts, targeting terrorists and their cohorts and dismantling their military capabilities. In the Niger Delta region, the military also says it is rejigging ongoing operations to combat crude oil theft, following a presidential directive. Director of Defense Media Operations, Major General Edward Buba, said the redesigned strategy is aimed at curbing the menace of crude oil theft through a comprehensive approach. He said the operations would be conducted through a unified command structure for all security agencies operating in the Niger Delta. TVC News defense correspondent Sifon St. Jones me on the news now for more updates on this development. Sifon, let's begin with these efforts by security agencies to beef up security around oil installations to prevent crude oil theft. What is it about this comprehensive approach?
Well, just as you have introduced, it's a unified command structure where all security agencies come under one roof and under one command, where apart from just the joint task force, they are working as one body. For instance, the intelligence agencies would provide intelligence, the enforcement agencies would enforce. That makes it easy, easier, I beg your pardon. But the interest now is that security forces would be enforcing the integrity of the IOCs, that's international oil companies, including the metering. Oftentimes, we gather that where theft happens at some flow station is at the metering. So if you are coming to get a certain quantity, the security forces will ensure that what you've been approved or assigned to lift is what you are actually taking out of the system and not something a lot more than what was approved. Now, this is the focus of the unified structure that the armed forces and indeed the security forces are establishing.
All right, and let's look at the other issue about the Nigerian Correctional Centre releasing more photos of inmates who escaped the Suleja, Correctional Service. 3 months after those 119 inmates escaped, you understand 18 were captured, and now identities of 31 have been disclosed. That makes a total of about 49, and we're wondering what is happening with the 70 others.
To have released this number, we assume, and that's subject to confirmation when we interact with the Correctional Service as well as our sources within the Correctional Service, we assume that they have brought in a larger number and it's only 31, has been published, and, whose identities have now been released that they are now looking for. In fact, they said they've, initiated overt and covert operations to ensure they get this 31. And, they will also be carrying out some, call it SWOT analysis, considering the reasons for which these 31 persons were held in the custodial center, and that will determine the level of risk they pose. But in this case, they've also established that this 31 person pose high risk in the society. Therefore, they are calling on members of the public, to assist the Correctional Service to ensure that these 31 wanted persons whose identities have now been released are brought back or recaptured and brought back to the Medium Custodial Centre in Suleja.
All right, Sifon. And when rainfall actually destroyed the fence back then in April, there were calls for it to be rebuilt. Have you heard anything about that?
We are pressed even the day or 12 hours after the incident. We had pressed the Minister of Interior, who was at the facility, to ensure we get the identities of those wanted. Actually, that's the protocol. But the minister had insisted that it was for security reasons that was not done. And this is nearly 3 months, and they're now releasing that. So, well, one would say it's better late than never.
All right. And then I was actually also asking about, the fence, whether efforts are in place to rebuild it. But then we've also heard the minister say that the facility might be relocated. So we just wait to see, what happens with all of that. Defense.
Actually, at the moment, I can't hear what you're saying, but we understand that efforts are being made to relocate certain custodial centers. Many of those custodial centers are 100 years old, so they are relocating them to newer urban centers or isolated areas where those facilities can be sited. And new facilities, we understand, model facilities are being built in the 6 geopolitical zones that would cater to both maximum, medium, and minimum risk inmates across the country.
Defense correspondent Sifon is in for us in Abuja. Thank you, Sifon.